The night Lagos lit up with its restless glow, Adaeze stood at the balcony of Chike's new mansion. The house itself felt like something out of a dream, white walls polished to a shine, floors that reflected light like still water, chandeliers hanging from ceilings so high they made her feel small. Just a year ago, she had been balancing roasted corn on her head, weaving through the streets, dodging buses, and shouting traders. Now, she was standing in a world that seemed to have no place for roasted corn, dust, or the constant clamor of survival. But Adaeze's heart hadn't changed. She still felt like that same girl from the corner stall. Her hands itched to work, to do something meaningful. Sitting idle in wealth did not suit her spirit. Chike entered the room, his suit perfectly tailored, the kind that announced money before he even spoke. But his eyes softened when they met hers. Beneath the sharp lines of his jaw and the air of confidence he now carried everywhere, Adaeze still saw the boy who had once eaten corn with trembling hands. "You're quiet," he said, walking toward her. She smiled faintly, her fingers tracing the balcony rail. "I'm just thinking. This place doesn't feel real." "It is real," Chike replied, his voice firm but gentle. "Everything you see, this house, the cars, the staff, it's ours now. And none of it would exist without you." Adaeze turned to him, her eyes searching his. "Sometimes I wonder if I belong here, Chike. People look at me differently. They whisper. I hear them." Chike's jaw tightened. "Let them whisper. They don't know what you mean to me. You gave me food when I had nothing. You gave me hope. Without you, I'd still be lost on the street. You belong here more than anyone." Despite his words, Adaeze couldn't shake the unease. Every staff member's bowed head, every stranger's lingering glance reminded her she was no longer in her world. And in the shadows of this new life, people were already plotting. The very next day, Chike took her to a dinner meeting at one of Lagos' finest hotels. The tables gleamed with silver cutlery, the chandeliers scattered light like broken diamonds, and the guests wore clothes that spoke wealth in every thread. Adaeze wore a dress Chike had bought her, simple but elegant, though she felt every pair of eyes on her. Among the crowd was Chief Duroji, a man in his late 50s, his agbada flowing, his gold wristwatch catching the light. He was a businessman with deep roots in Lagos, and his reputation carried both fear and respect. He watched Adaeze with thinly veiled disdain. "So this is the young woman?" Chief Duroji asked, his tone dripping with judgment. "The one who stood with you on the street." Chike's expression hardened. "This is Adaeze," he said sharply. "And she is more than worthy of respect." The chief chuckled low, shaking his head. "Respect is not given freely in this world, young man. You have wealth now, yes, but power is different. And the company you keep will determine how far you rise." Adaeze lowered her gaze, heat rushing to her face. She felt like a child under his scrutiny, like she had been caught trespassing in a world where she did not belong. That night, when they returned home, she said nothing. But her silence was heavy, and Chike noticed. "You're letting his words get to you," Chike said softly as they sat in the quiet living room. "They all look at me the same way," Adaeze whispered. "Like I don't deserve to be beside you. Like I'm just a corn seller who wandered into the wrong place." Chike reached for her hand, his grip strong. "You are the reason I'm here. And no matter what they say, you will stay by my side. Do you understand? This world will try to tear us apart, but I won't let it." Adaeze nodded, though the knot in her stomach remained. Days turned into weeks, and Adaeze tried to adjust. She learned how to greet guests the way society expected, how to walk with grace, how to dress for events. But deep inside, she worried she was losing herself, that the girl from the streets was fading away. Meanwhile, Chike's business empire grew. He was no longer just a wealthy man, he was becoming a force in Lagos, his name whispered in the same circles as men who had ruled industries for decades. But with every deal, every new success, came new eyes watching him. Some admired him. Others envied him. One evening, as Chike prepared for another late-night meeting, Adaeze stopped him. "Promise me something," she said quietly. Anything. Promise me this new world won't change you. Promise me the boy I met on the street is still in there. Chike paused, looking into her eyes. I promise, Adaeze. That boy will never leave. And as long as I breathe, I'll make sure you never doubt it. But even as he spoke, shadows were moving. Chief Duroji was not done. In quiet rooms with men of influence, he spoke of Chike as reckless, of Adaeze as a liability, a weakness that could be exploited. Rivals began circling, and Adaeze's unease was not unfounded. For now, the mansion was still filled with warmth, their bond still unbroken. But the storm of wealth, power, and envy was gathering, and when it broke, Adaeze and Chike would be tested in ways far harsher than hunger on the street. The girl who had once given away a simple corn would soon face a choice: hold on to love or survive the fire of a world determined to tear her away from the boy who had become a man of power. The storm began quietly. It didn't roar or announce itself, it crept in like whispers carried by the Lagos night, settling into places Chike and Adaeze could not see. Chief Duroji had been in the business world long enough to recognize a threat when it appeared, and Chike was no ordinary rival. In less than a year, the boy from the streets had taken contracts that men twice his age couldn't secure. His name was on the lips of investors and clients who once belonged to the chief's circle. But it wasn't just Chike's growing influence that bothered him, it was the girl beside him. At one of the city's elite gatherings, Chief Duroji leaned across a polished table, his voice low but sharp, speaking to a group of men in dark suits. This boy has built a fortune, yes. But his foundation is weak. That girl, Adaeze, she doesn't belong here. She's a crack in his wall. And when you want to bring down a wall, you strike where it is weakest. The men nodded, glasses of wine reflecting the glimmer of chandeliers. Meanwhile, Adaeze was fighting a quieter battle. She had been invited, or rather, expected to attend gatherings with the wives and daughters of Lagos' most influential men. Their conversations were coated in politeness but sharpened with hidden knives. You grew up selling corn, yes? One woman asked one afternoon, her smile as smooth as glass. Yes, Adaeze replied, her chin raised. How quaint, another woman murmured, sipping champagne. You must find all of this overwhelming. Adaeze smiled faintly, but inside, her heart twisted. Every word reminded her she was an outsider. Later that night, she lay awake beside Chike, staring at the high ceiling. Do you regret it? She whispered. Regret what? Bringing me here. Into this world where everyone looks at me like I'm a mistake. Chike turned to her, his face shadowed in the dim light. Never. Adaeze, if I had to choose again, between wealth without you or poverty with you, I would choose you. Every time. But Adaeze's fears were not unfounded. Chief Duroji's whispers had begun to spread. Rumors circulated in boardrooms and among investors. They said Chike was reckless, that he let his emotions cloud his judgment. They said he was controlled by a girl with no pedigree, no connections, no place among the elite. One morning, Chike returned from a meeting with a contract cancelled at the last moment. The client had chosen to partner with one of Duroji's companies instead. What happened? Adaeze asked as he entered, his face tight. Politics, Chike muttered, throwing his jacket aside. Old men protecting their circle. They think I don't belong because I don't play their game. Adaeze touched his arm gently. You do belong, Chike. You've earned this. But the losses continued. Small ones at first, missed opportunities, delayed payments, then bigger ones. Business partners hesitated, investors pulled back. Behind it all, unseen but undeniable, was Duroji's hand. And then came the most personal strike. One afternoon, Adaeze received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was smooth, practiced. Adaeze, do you really believe this life is yours? Do you think the wives of men like Chike will ever accept you? You are nothing but a girl from the streets. You will drag him down. Her heart pounded as she gripped the phone. Who are you? The caller laughed softly. Someone who knows how this world works. If you truly care for him, you will leave before you ruin him." She hung up, her hands trembling. That night, she didn't tell Chaik. She couldn't. But the words burrowed into her mind, echoing long after the call ended. Days later, the whispers reached Mama Adaeze too. At the market, women pulled her aside. "Your daughter is in a rich man's house now," one woman said, her tone edged with envy. "But those people don't keep women like her for long. They use them and toss them away." Mama Adaeze returned home that evening, her eyes heavy with worry. "Adaeze," she said, "are you sure this is your path? Wealth changes people. It could change him." Adaeze's voice cracked as she replied, "Mama, he promised me. He promised he would never forget." But doubt had taken root, and Chief Duroji knew it. At his mansion, he sat with his associates, a sly smile curling his lips. "We don't need to destroy Chaik's empire outright. We only need to shake the girl. A rattled heart weakens a man faster than an empty pocket." Meanwhile, Chaik continued to fight, unaware of the storm circling closer. He worked late nights, poured his energy into rebuilding deals, tightening his circle, preparing to rise again. But Adaeze could feel it, the walls closing in, the weight of a world that wanted her gone. One evening, after another cold interaction with the elite wives, Adaeze broke down in the privacy of her room. She pressed her hands to her face, tears slipping through her fingers. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. Chaik entered quietly, sitting beside her. He pulled her hands away gently and held her gaze. "You are stronger than you think. They don't want us here because they know what we represent, change. I came from nothing, and I won't let them erase that. And I won't let them erase you." Adaeze leaned into him, her tears dampening his shirt. But even as his arms held her steady, she knew the war ahead was only beginning. The whispers had turned into open resistance. And the girl who had once given a boy corn on the street now found herself at the center of a battle not just for love, but for identity, dignity, and survival in a world where kindness was seen as weakness and power was everything. The morning air was heavy with the scent of rain, though the clouds had yet to break. In the mansion's grand sitting room, Chaik sat at the head of a polished table, papers spread before him. His brow was furrowed, his pen tapping against the wood, the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. The empire he had built was under quiet siege, and though he was still standing, he knew every move counted now. The door opened suddenly, and Adaeze walked in, her eyes rimmed red from a sleepless night. She had hidden her fears from him for weeks, but her exhaustion was showing. Chaik looked up, his face softening instantly. "You didn't rest," he said, his voice low. "I couldn't," she admitted, sinking into the chair across from him. "Everywhere I go, I hear whispers. They say I don't belong. That I'm the one holding you back." Chaik leaned forward, his voice steady. "Adaeze, listen to me. You are not holding me back. You're the reason I'm here at all. Let them say what they want. We'll outlast them." Before she could reply, a guard entered the room and announced, "Sir, someone is here to see you. He says you know him." Chaik frowned. "Who?" The guard hesitated, then said, "A man named Kunnal." Adaeze tilted her head. The name meant nothing to her, but Chaik's face froze as if struck by a memory he hadn't expected. He rose quickly and said, "Send him in." Moments later, Kunnal walked through the door. His clothes were clean but worn, his shoes scuffed, his face older than his years. Yet there was a sharpness in his eyes, the kind of sharpness only survival could carve. "Kunnal," Chaik breathed, stepping forward. "It's been years." Kunnal smiled faintly, though bitterness lingered in his expression. "Yes, years. The last time we saw each other, you were on the street, same as me. Now look at you." His gaze swept the room, the expensive furniture, the chandeliers, the silent guards at the door. "Living like a king." Adaeze rose politely. "Welcome. I'm Adaeze." Kunnal's eyes lingered on her for a moment before he gave a small nod. "So you're the one they talk about." Her chest tightened at the implication, but she said nothing. Chaik clasped Kunnal's shoulder warmly. Sit down, brother. Tell me, how have you been? Kunnal sat, but his posture was tense, his eyes restless. How have I been? Let's just say life didn't smile at me the way it smiled at you. I'm still on those streets, Chaik. Still fighting to eat. Still fighting to survive. Chaik's heart clenched. He remembered the long nights they had spent huddled under broken stalls, sharing scraps of food, whispering dreams of a better life. I should have looked for you, Chaik admitted. I owe you that. Kunnal gave a short laugh. You owe me more than that. You owe me a place here. His words were sharp now, carrying more weight than casual banter. Adaeze shifted uncomfortably. Chaik inhaled deeply. If you want work, I'll find a place for you in the company. You're my brother, Kunnal. That will never change. But Kunnal's gaze hardened. Work? I didn't come here for scraps, Chaik. While you sit in glass rooms, I've been running hustles that kept us alive back then. You think I'll take orders from men in suits when I know I deserve a seat at the table? Adaeze's hand tightened on the edge of her chair. She could feel the tension rising like fire in the room. Chaik spoke carefully. Kunnal, the business world isn't the street. Things don't work the same way. But I'll help you find your footing. Kunnal leaned closer, his voice low, almost threatening. Footing isn't enough. I want what you have. And if you won't give it to me, I'll take it my own way. The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the sound of distant thunder. Chaik's eyes narrowed. Careful, Kunnal. We've shared hunger, yes. But don't mistake my kindness for weakness. This life I built, it didn't come easy. If you want to rise, I'll pull you up. But don't come here to tear down what I've fought for. Kunnal stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. We'll see, Chaik. We'll see if your empire is as strong as you think. He turned and strode out, leaving the air heavy with threat. Adaeze's voice trembled as she asked, who is he really? Someone you trust, or someone who could destroy you? Chaik sat down slowly, his expression dark. Kunnal was my brother on the street. We bled together, starved together. But hunger changes a man. And so does envy. That night, Adaeze could not sleep. She stood by the window, watching lightning flash across the sky. She felt the ground beneath their lives beginning to shift. First Chief Duroji, now Kunnal. It was as if the past and the present had joined forces to test their love, their patience, their very will to survive. The next week confirmed her fears. Rumors began to spread, not just about Adaeze now, but about Chaik's company itself. Papers leaked, contracts delayed, whispers of corruption floated in the air. At first, Chaik thought it was Duroji. But then, familiar faces began turning away, men Chaik once trusted with his life. Deals fell through at the last moment, often snatched up by smaller, street-rooted enterprises, companies that smelled of Kunnal's hand in them. Adaeze confronted Chaik in the study one evening, her voice unsteady but urgent. It's him, isn't it? Kunnal. He's coming for you. Chaik's jaw tightened, his hands clenched. Yes. And he knows my every weakness. He knows the boy I used to be. He knows the streets I came from. If anyone can find a crack in my armor, it's him. Adaeze's heart pounded. Then what do we do? Chaik looked at her with fierce determination. We don't bend. We don't bow. If I survived hunger, if I survived the streets, I will survive this too. But Adaeze, you must be ready. Because this war, it won't just be mine. It will come for you as well. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain hammered the glass, the sound filling the mansion like drums of warning. And in that storm, Adaeze realized something. Her love story was no longer just about kindness and gratitude. It was now about standing firm in a world that wanted to see them fall, about facing betrayals that cut deeper than hunger ever did. The boy she once fed had become a man with enemies. And she, once just a girl selling corn, was now standing at the center of a war between loyalty, envy, and power. The rain that had drenched Lagos the night Kunal reappeared lingered in Adaeze's memory like an omen. It was as if the heavens themselves had warned her that storms were no longer passing, they were settling in to stay. Life in the mansion continued, but it was no longer peaceful. Chaik grew quieter, his once warm laughter replaced by tense silences as he studied files late into the night. Adaeze watched him from the doorway sometimes, the glow of the lamp painting shadows across his face. He was changing, not in love, but in the weight he carried. One evening, while Chaik was in his study, Adaeze's phone rang. She answered, thinking it might be her mother. But the voice she heard chilled her blood. Adaeze, Kunal's voice said, calm but heavy with menace, I told Chaik I would take what he has. Now I'm telling you. Walk away from him, or watch everything crumble around you. Her grip tightened on the phone. Kunal, why are you doing this? He called you brother. He offered to help you. Kunal chuckled bitterly. Help? Do you think I want his charity? I bled on those streets same as him. Why does he get a mansion while I scrape in the dirt? No, Adaeze, I'll build my empire, but I'll do it on the ashes of his. The line went dead before she could reply. She stood frozen, the phone still in her hand. For a long moment, she said nothing. She couldn't bring herself to tell Chaik that his oldest friend had declared war. She was afraid of what it would do to him. The next day, trouble arrived. One of Chaik's warehouses was raided by authorities claiming illegal shipments were hidden inside. Of course, nothing was found. But the raid made headlines. Chaik's name was dragged into the mud, his reputation shaken. When Chaik stormed home that evening, Adaeze met him at the door. His eyes burned with fury. This isn't coincidence, he said sharply. Someone is feeding lies, someone is planting stories. Duroge's fingerprints are there, but this feels like Kunal. Adaeze swallowed hard, her chest tightening. She wanted to tell him about the call, but fear held her tongue. Chaik, she said softly instead, you can't fight them both at once. Please, don't let them push you into a corner. He cupped her face in his hands, his eyes softening for just a moment. I won't let them win. I won't let them take what we've built. But Adaeze, if anything ever happens to me, you must promise you'll keep standing. Her heart twisted. Don't talk like that. I mean it, he insisted. Promise me. I promise, she whispered, though tears threatened her eyes. The battle sharpened quickly. In the weeks that followed, investors backed out, contracts dissolved. Every loss seemed to come with Kunal's shadow. Rumors spread that Chaik was reckless, that he had turned his back on the very street that raised him, that he was blinded by love for a girl who didn't belong. One evening, Adaeze received an invitation slipped under the mansion gate. It was written in careful handwriting, meet me. Alone. I can help you end this war. The address was a quiet bar near the edge of the city. She hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. Against her better judgment, she went. Inside the dimly lit bar, she found Kunal waiting at a corner table. He leaned back in his chair, his smile cold. I knew you'd come, he said. I shouldn't be here, Adaeze replied, her voice low. But you are, Kunal said, leaning forward. You want to save Chaik. I can give you that chance. Leave him, Adaeze. Leave him, and I'll call off everything. I'll stop the attacks, stop the rumors. He'll be free to rebuild without you dragging him down. Adaeze's chest heaved. Drag him down? I've stood by him when no one else did. Kunal's eyes narrowed. And that's the problem. You're his weakness. They laugh at him in those rooms, Adaeze. They say he's blinded by a girl from the gutter. You think you're helping, but you're the chain holding him back. Walk away, and he'll be stronger. Stay, and he'll lose everything. Her hands trembled under the table. She wanted to scream, to defend herself, but a small, poisonous seed of doubt had been planted. What if Kunal was right? Why are you doing this? She whispered. Because I deserve what he has, Kunal snapped, his mask of calm shattering for a moment. And because I won't let someone like you stand in the way. Adaeze stood abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. You may know the boy he was, Colonel, but you don't know the man he is. And you don't know me. I won't abandon him. Not now, not ever. Colonel's smile returned, slow and chilling. Then watch him burn. She left the bar shaken, her heart pounding. When she returned home, Chaik was waiting. He saw the fear in her eyes immediately. Where were you? He asked, his voice sharp with concern. She hesitated, then whispered, with Colonel. Chaik froze, his face darkening. Adaeze, why? He wanted me to leave you, she confessed, her voice trembling. He said if I walked away, he'd stop everything. Chaik's jaw clenched, his fists tightening. He thinks he can use you against me. He thinks love is weakness. He doesn't understand that it's our strength. Adaeze reached for his hand. Chaik, promise me you won't let anger consume you. He wants you to lose yourself. Don't give him that. Chaik pulled her close, holding her as though she might vanish. No matter what happens, Adaeze, we stand together. Always. But outside their walls, Colonel moved swiftly. He had already planted men in Chaik's business, bribed partners, poisoned alliances. And now, he had one final plan, a trap that would not just attack Chaik's empire, but test the very core of Adaeze's loyalty. The boy she had once fed was now at war with the brother who once starved beside him. And Adaeze stood between them, the target both sides would use to win. The days that followed Adaeze's secret meeting with Colonel carried a tension so sharp she could almost hear it humming in the walls of the mansion. Chaik didn't say it aloud, but she could feel his anger every time Colonel's name came up in hushed conversations between him and his closest advisors. What worried her even more was not just the rage in Chaik's eyes, but the silence that came after, the silence of a man planning war. Lagos was restless too. In every boardroom, on every street corner where business gossip passed like currency, people whispered about the battle between Chaik and the mysterious rival rising out of nowhere. Some called it a fight of power, others a test of destiny. But Adaeze knew it wasn't just about money or contracts anymore. This was personal. One humid evening, as she walked through the marble hallway, a maid handed her a small envelope. No name, just her. Inside was a single card with 6 words, tomorrow night. At the old warehouse. Her heart sank. She knew it was Colonel. She hid the card quickly, pressing it against her chest, but Chaik caught sight of her pale expression when she entered their room. What is it? He asked, rising from his desk. Nothing, she said too quickly. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. Adaeze, don't lie to me. She hesitated, then handed him the card. His face hardened as he read it, his jaw tightening. He wants you again, Chaik muttered. He thinks he can turn you against me. Adaeze reached for his arm, her voice trembling. Don't go. Please. It feels like a trap. It is a trap, Chaik said firmly. But I won't let him drag you into this alone. The next night, they went together. The old warehouse was near the docks, its walls rusted, the air thick with the smell of oil and salt water. Guards stood at a distance, shadows under the broken lights. Colonel was waiting inside, dressed in black, his figure lean and sharp. His smile stretched as they entered. I knew you'd come, Colonel said, his voice echoing in the vast emptiness. Both of you. Chaik's voice cut through the air. Enough games, Colonel. You've made your choice. Why drag Adaeze into this? Colonel's eyes glinted. Because she is your weakness, Chaik. I warned her, I offered her a way out, but she chose you. Now she'll watch you lose everything. He snapped his fingers. From the shadows, several men emerged, blocking the exits. Adaeze's breath caught. It wasn't just a meeting, it was an ambush. Colonel stepped closer, his words sharp as a blade. Here is my offer. Adaeze leaves you tonight. She walks away, and I'll call this off. Your company, your name, your future, it will all remain yours. But if she stays, Chaik, I'll destroy it piece by piece until you're nothing but the boy I once knew, begging on the street. The silence that followed was suffocating. Adaeze's chest rose and fell, her eyes darting to Chaik. He stood tall, his fists clenched, but his face betrayed nothing. Adaeze's voice cracked as she whispered, "Kunal, this isn't you. You and Chaik were brothers once." Kunal's expression hardened. Brothers? Brothers don't watch each other rot in the gutter while they rise to palaces. No, Adaeze. He forgot me. And now he'll pay for it. Chaik's voice thundered across the room. I never forgot you. Do you think I don't carry those nights with me? Every hunger, every scar? I would have pulled you up with me, Kunal, but envy has eaten your soul. Kunal's men shifted uneasily, the force of Chaik's words cutting deeper than they expected. But Kunal sneered, refusing to bend. He turned to Adaeze. Choose. Leave him and save him, or stay and watch him fall. Tonight, your decision writes his fate. The warehouse seemed to close in around her, the sound of the ocean outside drowned by the pounding of her own heart. She looked at Chaik, who held her gaze with steady eyes. There was no fear in him, only love and defiance. Adaeze stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. You think love is weakness, Kunal. But you're wrong. Love is the reason he survived. Love is the reason I stood by him when he had nothing. And love is the reason I will not leave him now. Kunal's jaw tightened. Then you've chosen his destruction. He raised his hand, signaling his men. But before they could move, Chaik spoke again, his voice calm yet commanding. If you want to destroy me, Kunal, you'll have to do it with your own hands. But know this, every move you make against me only proves I was right to rise above the streets we once shared. You call it betrayal. I call it survival. And unlike you, I don't betray the people I love. The men hesitated. Some lowered their eyes, their loyalty wavering. Kunal saw it, and rage twisted his face. Cowards, he spat. For a long, heavy moment, it seemed the warehouse might erupt into violence. But then Kunal lowered his hand, his eyes narrowing into slits. This isn't over, he hissed. You've chosen love. I'll choose power. And in this city, power always wins. He turned sharply, storming out, his men trailing behind. The sound of their footsteps faded, leaving only silence and the echo of Adaeze's rapid heartbeat. Chaik pulled her into his arms. She was shaking, but his embrace steadied her. You were brave, he whispered. You chose us. Tears streamed down her face as she clung to him. I'll always choose us. But deep inside, both of them knew the battle was far from over. Kunal would return, stronger, more dangerous, more desperate. And when he did, it wouldn't just be whispers and threats, it would be war. The girl who once gave food to a hungry boy was now standing at the edge of a fight that would test not just love, but life itself. And in the distance, Lagos roared with anticipation, as though the city itself knew a reckoning was coming. The city did not sleep, and neither did the rumors. By the time dawn broke after the confrontation in the warehouse, the whispers had already spread like fire through dry grass. Newspapers hinted at secret ties between Chaik's empire and street cartels. Businessmen whispered that Chaik's success was built on dirty money. And in every hushed conversation about the man who had risen from nothing, Adaeze's name appeared like poison on tongues. They called her the market girl who bewitched a billionaire. They said she had trapped him with charms, that his empire was crumbling because he had given his heart to a nobody. At first, Adaeze tried to ignore it. She held her head high at public events, smiled politely even when she felt daggers in the stares of wealthy wives. But soon, the words found their way into her home. Anonymous letters slipped under the gates. Online headlines splashed her picture with cruel captions. One morning, as she sat in the living room flipping through a magazine, her phone buzzed. A message popped up from an unknown number. Gold looks cheap when worn by dirt. Leave him before you ruin him completely. Her hands trembled as she set the phone down. She wanted to cry, but she remembered Chaik's words. Promise me you'll stand. She pressed her palms together and whispered, I'll stand. No matter what. But the world outside was not kind. A week later, Adaeze attended a charity gala with Chaik. The hall glittered with chandeliers, the scent of expensive perfume thick in the air. As they walked in, all eyes turned to them. Whispers spread like ripples across water. One woman, dressed in shimmering fabric, leaned toward her friend, her voice loud enough to carry. "Is that her? The girl from the corn stall? Look at her now, pretending to belong." Adaeze's cheeks burned, but she lifted her chin. She had promised herself she wouldn't flinch. Chaik squeezed her hand firmly as if to remind her that he saw her, not the whispers. But the night took a cruel turn. During the speeches, a video suddenly appeared on the massive screen behind the stage. It showed clips of Adaeze in the market years ago, her tray of roasted corn balanced on her head, her face sweaty and tired. The images had been edited with mocking text. "From corn to crown, does she deserve it?" Gasps filled the room. Laughter followed. Adaeze froze, her body stiff, her breath caught in her throat. She wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Chaik shot up from his seat, his voice thunderous. "Turn that off." But the damage was done. Adaeze's humiliation hung in the air like smoke. They left the gala early. In the car, silence pressed down on them. Finally, Adaeze whispered, "They'll never let me forget where I came from." Chaik turned to her, his voice fierce. "And why should you forget? That girl who sold corn, she's the reason I'm alive today. They can laugh all they want, but without you, I'd be nothing. Let them choke on their arrogance. You are my pride, Adaeze." Tears spilled down her cheeks. For the first time, she believed him. Yet deep inside, she knew Connell was behind the video. Only someone who had lived on the street with them would know where to find such images. Connell wasn't just attacking Chaik's business anymore. He was attacking Adaeze's very existence, turning her identity into a weapon. The following week, the battle escalated. A scandal erupted in the newspapers, Billionaire's love interest tied to market fraud. The article accused Adaeze of running schemes back when she sold corn, of cheating customers, of hiding dark secrets from her past. Every word was a lie, but the story spread faster than the truth ever could. Reporters camped outside the mansion gates, their cameras flashing whenever Adaeze stepped out. One afternoon, as she went to visit her mother, a journalist shoved a microphone in her face. "Miss Adaeze," he pressed, "did you really manipulate Chaik into loving you? Did you hide your past from him?" She froze, words dying on her tongue. Before she could answer, Chaik appeared, his arm wrapping protectively around her. "Enough," he roared. "You want questions? Come to me. She owes you nothing." He ushered her into the car, his face a mask of fury. Inside, Adaeze broke down. "Chaik, how much more of this can we take? They're tearing me apart. They're tearing us apart." Chaik's voice softened, though his eyes still burned. "Adaeze, this is exactly what Connell wants. He wants you broken, doubting yourself, doubting us. But he doesn't understand, you are the strongest part of me. If you fall, I fall. And I will not let that happen." That night, Chaik called an emergency meeting with his inner circle. Adaeze stayed at his side, determined not to be pushed into the shadows. One of Chaik's advisors spoke cautiously. "Sir, the attacks are coordinated. Whoever is behind this has inside information, someone close feeding details." Chaik's fists tightened. "Connell." Adaeze swallowed hard, remembering the cold promise he had made, "Watch him burn." Another advisor suggested, "We can silence the rumors with money, bribe the papers to retract." "No," Chaik interrupted sharply. "I won't waste money buying silence. I'll fight this with truth. If they want to drag Adaeze's past into the light, then we'll show them it's nothing to be ashamed of." Adaeze looked at him, her heart pounding. "Chaik, are you sure?" He turned to her, his eyes steady. "Yes. You once fed me when the world forgot me. Now, I'll stand before the world and say it proudly. The woman they mock is the woman who saved my life." Her tears fell freely as she held his hand. But outside their circle, Connell smiled. Every move Chaik made, every vow Adaeze whispered, was part of a bigger plan. He wasn't done. He wanted more than humiliation. He wanted collapse. And as the rain returned that night, pounding against the mansion windows, Adaeze felt it in her bones. The real war was just beginning. The storm that had been brewing finally began to roar. Connell was no longer content with whispers, no longer satisfied with rumors splashed across gossip columns. He wanted a spectacle, something that would shake Chike to his core and leave Adaeze questioning everything she thought she knew about loyalty. He wanted to break their bond in a way money could not mend. It started with an invitation. A letter, handwritten and slipped through the gates of Chike's mansion. It bore no name, only a line: "Meet me at the old warehouse by the docks. I know the truth about Connell. Come alone." Adaeze found it one evening as she stepped outside for air. The handwriting was sharp, hurried, almost desperate. For hours she stared at it, debating. She knew it was dangerous, but the words clawed at her mind. She had seen what Connell was capable of. Maybe this was the chance to expose him once and for all. That night she hid the letter from Chike. She told herself it was to protect him, but deep down, she knew the truth. Part of her feared he would forbid her from going, and she couldn't bear to sit idle while the man who tormented them moved freely. The next evening, dressed in plain clothes, Adaeze slipped out. The city's glow faded as she reached the docks. The warehouse loomed ahead, its walls peeling, windows shattered, the smell of salt water thick in the air. Inside, the shadows stretched long. A single bulb flickered overhead. Adaeze's footsteps echoed against the concrete floor. "Hello," she called out, her voice steady despite the fear crawling in her chest. "You sent me a letter." From the darkness, a figure emerged. Connell. Her heart dropped. She turned to leave, but two men stepped from the shadows, blocking the exit. Connell's smile was slow, mocking. "I knew you would come. You always had a heart too curious for your own good." Adaeze's pulse raced. "What do you want from me?" Connell circled her like a predator. "What I've always wanted. To see Chike fall. And you, Adaeze, are the perfect weapon. I'll never betray him." Connell chuckled, shaking his head. "Betrayal doesn't always come from choice. Sometimes it's forced." He snapped his fingers. One of the men tossed a folder onto the floor at her feet. Papers spilled out, photographs of her mother's market stall, her brother Ukenna walking home from school, even her old house in the village. Adaeze's breath caught. "What is this?" "Insurance," Connell said smoothly. "I can destroy not just Chike, but everyone you love. Unless you help me. One word from you to the press, one carefully planted story, and Chike's empire crumbles overnight. All I ask is that you say it was all a lie. That he bought his fortune with blood." Adaeze's sneeze weakened. "You're asking me to kill him with my words." Connell leaned close, his voice cold. "Better his empire dies than your family." Tears filled her eyes, but she clenched her fists. "You underestimate me, Connell. I may have come from nothing, but I am not afraid of you." His smile vanished, replaced with a flash of anger. He grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "We'll see how long that courage lasts when your family starts disappearing one by one." Adaeze shoved him back, her voice shaking but fierce. "You're a coward. You hide behind shadows because you can't face the man you want to destroy." For the first time, Connell's mask cracked. Rage twisted his features. He raised his hand as though to strike her, but stopped, his breathing heavy. Slowly, he lowered his hand and sneered. "Run back to him, Adaeze. Run, and remember, every step you take puts someone you love in danger. You will betray him, whether you mean to or not." The men moved aside, letting her leave. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to walk steadily out of the warehouse, her heart pounding so loud she could barely hear the crashing waves outside. By the time she reached the mansion, it was past midnight. Chike was waiting in the living room, his eyes dark with worry. "Where were you?" Adaeze froze, the letter heavy in her pocket, Connell's words still burning in her mind. She wanted to tell him everything, but fear clamped her throat. She forced a smile. I just needed some air. Chaik studied her for a long moment, suspicion flickering in his eyes. Adaeze, don't shut me out. Whatever is happening, we face it together. Her chest ached with guilt. She wanted to pour out the truth, but Kunnal's threat echoed, better his empire dies than your family. So she swallowed the words and nodded weakly. Together. But Chaik was not blind. The way her hands trembled, the way her gaze darted away, he knew something was wrong. And Kunnal was counting on it. Days later, the blow came. A news outlet published an anonymous testimony claiming Chaik's rise to wealth was built on stolen contracts, shady deals, and bribes. The source? A woman close to him. The story went viral. Investors panicked. Competitors circled like vultures. And all eyes turned to Adaeze. She sat frozen in the living room as the news anchors repeated the accusations. Her face appeared on the screen, blurred but recognizable. A woman close to Chaik has revealed shocking details. Chaik stormed into the room, his phone in his hand, his jaw clenched. Adaeze, tell me this isn't you. Her heart broke at the hurt in his voice. Chaik, I swear, I never spoke to them. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Kunnal's plan was working. And as silence filled the mansion, thick and heavy, Adaeze realized the cruel genius of his scheme. Even without her betrayal, Kunnal had made it look like she had already crossed the line. It was the deadliest move yet, not to destroy their love with violence, but with mistrust. And as the rain poured outside that night, Adaeze knew one thing with terrifying clarity. The battle wasn't just for Chaik's empire anymore. It was for their very hearts. And so, Season 2 closes with the storm raging hotter than ever. Chaik and Adaeze stand at the edge of fire, their love tested by betrayal, their future shadowed by Kunnal's schemes. The boy once saved on the streets of Lagos has become a man at war with his past, and the girl who fed him must now fight not only for his empire but for their hearts to survive. This is not the end. The road ahead is filled with more danger, more sacrifice, and choices that will shake everything they thought they knew. Before you go, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next in this powerful story. And in the comments, tell us the country you're watching from and the exact time showing on your clock right now We want to know where our family of viewers is tuning in from all around the world. The journey continues. Will love survive the storm, or will power tear it apart? Stay with us.